Hi dear students. So this is History 2020 match. See, in a single hour, we will cover both History Optional and GS History. You know, this history is very important part of your UPSC preparation for your prelims, mains, GS part and for your optional part. So the funda is very simple. In 6 points, we will revise maximum topics from paper 1, paper 2, or from ancient India, medieval India, modern India, world history, and art and culture. Let us start it. Okay. Starting with the very first topic, which is archaeological sources versus literary sources. Both in GS part and in optional part, they ask questions on sources, the relevance of the sources, or how archaeological sources and literary sources are helpful in reconstructing the history of India, or different classification of the sources, or for foreign sources, Indian sources, archaeological, literary, secular, religious, so many questions are there. So archaeological sources versus literary sources. Archaeological sources, the advantages. What are the advantages of archaeological sources? See, material authenticity. They are tangible, direct sources like these coins are there, inscriptions are there, fossils are there, pottery is there, tangible, direct sources. So they are free from interpolations and exaggerations. The original thing you collect, the direct physical evidence you collect about the past cultures, free from interpolations, any addition, deletion, or any type of exaggerations. Okay, according to R. S. Sharma. Then chronological reliability. You can apply the scientific dating methods. For example, carbon 14 or stratigraphy, typology, different types of like a dating, scientific dating methods can be applied, and the accurate chronology you can understand with the help of archaeological sources. So scientific dating methods like carbon 14, they allow accurate time frame reconstruction of the historical eras or periods. Okay, that is something very important according to Ubender Singh. Another advantage of archaeological sources, socio-economic insights, the archaeological evidences. Okay, different excavations, they reveal the agriculture. For example, Ragigargi excavations. Okay, Harappa Mohenjo-daro excavations, Neolithic excavations. They reveal the social picture, agricultural, economic picture, or the cultural life of these various communities or various settlements. Okay, so they give you socio-economic insights. Another thing is like a mass cultural representation. These archaeological evidences reveal the life of the common people, ordinary people, their housing patterns, burial practices, their craft, art, their lifestyle, different informations, their dressing pattern or their subsistence strategy, different informations we collect from the archaeological evidences according to Irfan Habib. Then corrective role. The archaeological sources, they play corrective role. That means sometimes the literature can be exaggerations. For example, Sangam literature. The political history in the Sangam literature is exaggerated, but that can be corrected with this, yes, by examining these contemporary archaeological evidences. So they play a corrective role according to Romila Thapar. Then continuity and regional diversity. Archaeological sources, they reveal cultural continuities and variations across the regions. For example, with the identity of the burial practices, pottery remains, or with the identity of these inscriptions, coins, etc., we get an idea about how the things are continued over or continued to other cultures or other phases and other civilizations. Okay, so such informations we collect, or such are the relevances of these archaeological evidences. They have disadvantages also, fragmentary nature. Okay, they remain sometimes incomplete, eroded, or contextually missing. Okay, fragmentary nature of the archaeological evidences. Then see interpretation limitations. Some are difficult to interpret here. For example, in the script discovered, but this script is not deciphered. So interpretation limitations are the lack of ideological religious context. See, sometimes these archaeological evidences, yes, they are not sufficient to give you a clear-cut ideological descriptions on cultures. Okay, the beliefs, values behind actions, or values behind the materialistic aspect, that is difficult to explain, interpret. That is some disadvantages. Dating difficulties are also there. you can see that sometimes correlation of strata with these historical events is not always precise. That is also the problem with these archaeological sources. Now coming to then urban centric bias, most of the archaeological sources or maybe the remains which we collect from urban areas, where we collect the history of these, where we coins are there, inscriptions are there. For example, you get to the history of urban strata, urban people, but the history of the rural people is not possible to construct along with this. That is something that difficult. The difficulty, resource intensive, excavations costly, time consuming, and cannot be conducted everywhere. So that thing is also something, the disadvantage of these archaeological sources. Literary sources advantages, ideological cultural insights. Most of the literary sources like Vedas, Puranas, Arthashastras, Indica, or maybe Siyuki, they all provide the religious or economic or social or political administrative history. Okay, then see chronological narratives. They offer sequences of dynasties, kings, or maybe these events. For example, Kalhana's Rajatarangani according to Ubender Singh. Then administrative political data. For example, yes, the source like Arthashastra or the source like Megasthenes Indica, they all give us, or Ashokanetics, they give us, yes, administrative informations, or they give you informations about the governance, nature of governance, diplomacy, political rulers, or political institutions, etc. Religious social structures like Dharma Shastra, Jataka, they all give you information. So many Buddhist Jain literature are there. They give you informations on the religion, on the social classes, social system, rituals, or this Varna system, different informations according to Koshambi. Vast temporal coverage. Literary traditions span millennia, providing continuity where archaeology is absent. There are lots of cases where the continuity of the cultures couldn't be expressed from these archaeological evidences because of their absence. But that cultural continuity could be discussed over decades and centuries, could be discussed with the availability of literature. Okay, then cross-cultural contacts, foreign accounts and indigenous sources. See, literature help you sometimes. For example, coming to this like Megasthenes Indica, lots of information given are false. For example, there is something called the slavery absent, usury absent, or maybe about the social division, seven social divisions. Some confusions of Megasthenes in his Indica that can be corrected with the contemporary sources like Arthashastra, which say that slavery was practiced, usury was practiced, or social divisions, Chaturvarna, those concepts. So cross-cultural contacts also, or maybe corrections also can be, yes, called cross-cultural contacts, foreign accounts and these Indian accounts. See, all this can be revealed with the literature. Also, this cross-examination is possible. Indigenous sources versus foreign sources, that is possible with the help of these archaeological evidences. Disadvantages, some disadvantages of literary sources, biased and exaggerations. For example, let us take the case of the Sangam literature. Most of the Sangam literary works, they are in praise of the rulers and the ruling elites and all. Okay, may not be true or may not be authentic. Okay, that kind of thing is there. Then exaggerations are there. Then similar way, especially court chronicles, that mostly in praise of or appreciating the contributions and achievements of the rulers, not not having a critical analysis on their achievements or maybe their reign, etc. Then see, elite-centric nature. Most of the literature compiled by these courtly scholars, poets, and these writers who enjoyed the patronage of the rulers. So what happens is that yes, most of the literature, elite-centric literature, rarely reflecting the life of the common people, according to R. S. Sharma. Interpolations and redactions. Many literature underwent insertions, making authenticity questionable. Manusmriti is an example. Similar way, there are lots of literary works, yes, which underwent insertions, further additions in the later times, or some exaggerations, or some, wrong interpretations. So that is why authenticity is under question. Then sectarian bias is there. For example, Buddhist Brahminical text. Buddhist text have a biased interpretation. Brahminical. For example, Buddhist text picturize Ashoka as the great patron of this Buddhism, but Brahminical accounts have different perspective on this Ashoka and his Dhamma. So sectarian biasness in the literature, chronological ambiguities are there, lacking precise dating. Many works compiled centuries after events. Yes, still the question is about this actual compilation date of this Rigveda or this, Vedic Samhitas or Puranic literature. Lots of debates and, controversies are there regarding the precise age of, or maybe the time period of these compilations. So that thing, chronological ambiguities is limitation, sectarian biasness, interpolations, elite centric nature, bias and exaggerations. These are some disadvantages of literary sources. Okay, but of course, in order to construct the history, the archaeological and literary sources has to be studied nicely, cross-examined nicely, and both these are, yes, they mutually, or they are essential for reconstructing the history of the past. Coming to another topic, yeah, silence in history. Many literary sources, they are talking about this religion or maybe society sometimes. Yes, technology, economy, gender roles are underrepresented in literary works. That is also the problem. Most of them are religious literature and missing some secular aspects. Now, coming to the status of women, Indus women, Rigvedic women, later women, Indus women, Rigvedic women, later women, the comparison of their status. See, Indus women, representation in material culture, female figurines, mother goddesses, or seals suggest fertility cult is practiced, reverence of feminine principles. So, in Indus civilization, women having a better status, for example, the art and craft, or maybe the religion, fertility cult, mother goddess worship, or women representation in the seals and ceilings, or many of the aspects are proving that to women bronze dancing girl, many aspects are proving that to women enjoyed a dignified status in this Indus culture. Yes, economic role, women involved in craft production, pottery making, household economy according to R. Sharma. Religious symbolism, prominent role of fertility symbols, tree worship, female deities, yes, all indicate women linked to agricultural prosperity according to Irfan Habib. Burial practices, grave goods with the female skeleton suggest recognition of status within the household and communities. Relative equality, urban organized society show less textual evidence of subordination. Material culture suggests complementary roles of these women, according to Romila Thapar. Limitations, absence of deciphered script makes social legal details uncertain. Interpretations remain speculative, but still, most of the art and craft works, or most of these bronze images, or from such a seals and ceilings, we get an information that women enjoyed a dignified status here, even though some limitations or interpretations remain speculative. Rigvedic women, see, 1500 to 1000 BC, she enjoyed educational rights according to R. Sharma. Garhi, Lobamudra, they are mentioned as women, hymn composers. Okay, they composed Vedic verses. They participated in these rituals. Women joined the sacrifices and household rituals with their husbands. That means they enjoyed a good role in this religious life, according to Romila Thapar. Then marriage practices is largely monogamous. Swayamvara and remarriage allowed. Child marriage was absent. And say that if the husband died, husband's brother, women can marry his brother, or widow remarriage is practiced. Minimum age for marriage is fixed. Property and status, patriarchal society but not rigid. Women could inherit this property in absence of main heirs. Then see public life, women participated in assemblies, Sabha, Samadhi, Gana, Vedanta kind of assemblies were there, where women participated in some of assemblies. Okay, high esteem in literature. Hymns often depict women as this Sahadharmini, equal partner, showing dignity of women position. So, Rigvedic culture, Rigvedic literature, or Rigveda indicates women's status was good, or she enjoyed a relatively better status in political, cultural, economic life. Coming to later Vedic women, 1000 BC to 600 BC, or 1000 BC to 500 BC, according to R. Sharma, Romila Thapar, Ubender Singh, yes, the status of the women politically, culturally, economically got reduced. See, educational decline. Upanayana for girls disappeared. Women access to Vedic learning reduced, according to R. Sharma and Romila Thapar. Ritual exclusion. Women gradually excluded from sacrifices. Role became secondary. Yes, during Rigvedic time, women could participate in the ritual ceremonies along with their husbands. But now, yes, they being excluded from sacrifices and ritualistic ceremonies. Okay, then marriage norms, increasing emphasis on patriarchal control. Child marriage began, Swayamvara rare, and widow remarriage disappeared, according to Romila Thapar. Okay, again, see Varna rigidity. The patriarchal Purusha Sukta Mandala talks about that particular Varna based divisions and this role of these men and women. And see, the concept is that Yes, what happened is the, yeah, Manusmriti kind of the Smriti literature. Yes, they classified the gender roles of men and women, and see women got like subordinated to men, and her role in these tribal assemblies. You know that I mean I mean women excluded from tribal assemblies, and no longer women composers are here, and her education right is banned, Upanayana right is banned, ritual rights is banned. Okay, so the status reduced, and women treated equal to Shudras. Okay, so that thing is there. Then laws of property rights. Okay, inheritance rights, it's again banned here. Okay, then domestic subordination increasingly confined to household activities. Okay, and emphasis on chastity, obedience, ritual purity, etc. So a very absolute, a tight patriarchal norm is established here, where women's status is subordinated to men. But yeah, so those things are the changes which happened with regard to the role and this status of the women, comparing with the RVC to LVC. So just have an idea how the status of the women, or what was the status of the women during Indus Valley civilization, Rigvedic civilization, later Vedic civilization. This idea has to be clear, which is a hot topic for UPSC. Okay. Now, moving on to another concept, which is about this what is called do's and don'ts in mapping. You know that for history optional students, mapping part is very crucial, and that is a kind of an objective question. It offers you around 50 marks. You know, yes, in a plain map of India, 20 sites are marked, and clues are given. Yes, with the help of the clues, you are supposed to identify the site, and precisely you have to name the site, precisely locate, name the site, and give some historical cultural relevance of the site in 30 words. Okay, so that's why I say it's a kind of an objective question. Very easily you can score 50 marks from this. Okay, for which daily practice matters. What all things you are supposed to do for this mapping part in history optional, let me tell you do's and don'ts. One is like yes, you just practice every day. Every day you have to practice on a plain map of India. From the newspaper you will get to some historical cultural sites. Historical cultural sites is at least one site is discussed in the news every day. So when you read newspaper, collect that particular, for example, Kiredi excavations, Kiredi site is in the news, or maybe Lothal Maritime Heritage Museum, Lothal is in the news, or Rangpur is in the news, or this Adarampakam is in the news, or Takshila is in the news, or Nalanda is in the news, okay, or Varanasi in the news. Okay, when these cultural historical sites are in the news, just try to locate that site in the plain map of India. There itself you precisely write some descriptions. It's geography, it's historical relevance, cultural relevance, or salient features. That way you just there itself write down the precise features of that site. That way every day you practice at least one or two sites, so that 300 400 sites could be very nicely revised before your 2026 mains exam. Okay, so B, take care while practicing mapping part of history optional. Take care precision in location. Okay, precision in location. See, Lothal Rangpur can be in the almost in the same areas, or you see that some sites are in almost in the same areas. So don't be confused with this close range sites. Usually aspirants are confused with the close range sites. So be very precise in locating these sites, and give a three-layer annotation to each site. Three-layer annotation means, of course, you can say, yes, that particular geographical identity of the site, its significance, or its cultural historical features. Okay, that way precisely in one or two lines you just write down the features. That way you cover, yes, the description part of each site. Maintain a uniform format. For example, Kalibangan Harappan site, discoveries are fire altars, plowed field, or why it is in the news, some recent relevance, if there, just note out. That way you can just prepare the description or annotation for each site. Practice close range sites differentiation. Close range sites, there are lots of, you know, when you follow the geography system, I mean on the banks of rivers or mountain ranges, or in the plains, or in the trades, or in the corridors, when you locate to the sites, make sure that you may confuse with the close range sites here. For example, Lothal Rangpur, so there you give the differentiation. Lothal is dockyard, and this Rangpur rice cultivation. This is the way you can give some differentiations, or you can just table it, you can just present it as a tabular format. Yes, the close range sites, what are the differences, how they are differed. Okay, practice it. Then see north to south, south see revision. From the north to south, you can arrange all the historical sites. For example, temple sites from north to south, or south to north, or from east to west. This is the way you can just arrange these sites in a very systematic order. Okay, for example, inscription sites, or cave art sites, or temple sites, or ancient educational centers, or prehistoric sites, inter sites. When you practice this thematically, just to follow an order, south to north, or north to south, or east to west. So that way, very chronologically, or very in an organized way, you can revise, recall the sites. Okay, so these are the things you can go for, you can do for mapping part. And to revise map top down, this is exactly what I said. Supplement with the current scholarships. For example, recently some excavations are done. Raki Gargi DNA study, key finds. So whenever some recent developments are there, just add on in that particular description part. Okay. Don'ts are there, which is for your mapping part. One is that don't use arrows or fancy diagrams. See, don't use fancy diagrams for your mapping, because UPC does not want the artistic sketches in the maps here. You maintain accuracy. Use this NCRT maps, use this, ASA maps, okay, and maintain the accuracy for each site and its description. Don't overcrowd the map. You just prepare separate maps for these different themes, okay. Don't confuse cultural phases. Okay, be very specific with the cultural phases. Don't be confused with the cultural phases. You must know Indus script, that belongs to Indus civilization, not to megalithic culture. Okay, every findings or every age, that placed in a particular timeline. That be very clear with that timeline. Okay, you must know Gandhara, Madura, Amravati schools of sculptures development, that is in the post-Mauryan pre-Gupta age. So you must have a clear idea about the cultural phases. Don't neglect less famous sites. Yes, UPC now started a trend like this. They increasingly picks obscure ones. Okay, they are not so famous, no popular, but the less famous, less popular sites are being repeatedly asked. So focus on that. Don't misplace river system. Okay, wrong river mapping. For example, on the bank of Krishna River, and you placed it on Godavari River. Don't be confused. Be clear with that river system, mountain ranges, corridors, trails, plains, etc. Then see, don't leave blank if unsure. Don't leave blank if unsure. Write broad identification, PGW site, Upper Ganga Valley, instead of leaving blank. Even partial correctioners fetches marks. That is something, if you are not 100% clear, but still you have an overall idea, just give that a general description. That is fine. Don't be specific with that. So this is the way you can practice mapping part for your history optional. And most important thing, in our regular classes, we have regular mapping series that I share the specific informations or specific strategies for each theme for mapping part that we cover in our classes. But these basic things you follow in the mind, accordingly you practice, mapping will be a cakewalk for you. Okay.
Gallant IAS, chasing your passion to ace.